Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to TSP, which stands for Tarif's Speakers Podcast. Now, I've got a special guest today, and we're going to be talking about public speaking experiences, what public speaking means to this person, and then we'll just delve in and just really get into the nitty-gritty of this person's experience. Let me introduce you to him. This is Aamar Hussain, who runs Co-Tribe Co-Working. He's been doing it for about 2 years now, and that would be correct, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, that's right. 2 years.
2 years, good.
2 glorious years.
2 glorious years of dictatorship and running this place and making sure that everyone is depressed and miserable. That is not the truth. Actually, it is a great place, and this is where I started with the public speaking company myself. Just talk to me about yourself. Just a little intro for the people.
Sure. So as well as Co-Tribe, I run a tech business. A couple of years ago, I went through a technology accelerator in Israel for that business.
Yeah.
Whilst I was out there, I was in a co-working environment. It was my first experience of such an environment. Yeah. I really liked it. And when I came back, the only real option was dull grey boxes in a local Regis. So I thought, maybe I can do this better and come up with my own version of it. And Co-Tribe was born. So now we're up to 2 spaces, one in Hawley, one in Red Hill, and the plan is to keep growing.
Nice.
And the overall idea is to help people that they're in idea stage with their business, a space for them to work, share ideas, and collaborate with other people, and then ultimately grow and take on office space as well.
Nice, good stuff. So world domination as your
that is the plan.
That is the
mantra. That is how we roll.
Exactly. Here. Good. So of course, look, when you're setting up your own business and you're promoting your work, there would be public speaking involved.
Yeah.
And before we go into your experience of promoting this business, I just want to find out a little bit more. And I know we've briefly had a chat about this a couple of weeks ago. What was your first experience of public speaking?
I've had a few experiences of public speaking in different contexts.
Okay.
So I've done webinars, which, to large groups of people.
Yeah.
And I've also done live events where I'm speaking to hundreds of investors. So which of those experiences do you want to delve into first?
Ooh, well,
because they're different. They're different in the way that they operate.
And what is the difference between doing a webinar and then presenting to a group of 100 investors? So
a webinar is something you can do sitting in your underwear at home after not having bathed for 4 days. There's no need for personal presentation, and you can do this at any time with an audience around the world.
Yeah.
So I've run webinars. The largest webinar that I've been a part of was a summit event, and that had over 10,000 people watching at any given point in time.
Wow.
And the largest individual personal webinar that I've done has been 1,200 people from around the world. So that's a large number of people.
Yeah.
So in terms of scalability, being able to reach a large audience, webinars are amazing. Most of the time it's death by PowerPoint. So you're sharing your ideas through screen shares. Some people use live video. Personally, I don't think you're going to get great production quality if you're sitting in your pajamas at home. So
I don't think anyone's going to want to see you naked about.
Yeah, kind of. Hey, man, that's not cool. But generally speaking, it's a PowerPoint type of thing. You introduce ideas and this type of thing. So in terms of scalability, being able to share ideas with a large audience at their convenience all around the world, webinars are amazing for that. So I also went through Techstars. Techstars is a kind of elite accelerator type of a setup. Yeah. And it's a 4-month process. In 4 months, you're kind of meeting all these amazing mentors. You're sharing, your ideas, and they're helping you whittle it down and develop it. Yeah. And what it results in at the end of it all is a massive pitch event. And in that pitch event, you've got 400 or 500 plus investors, and you're in an auditorium. It's very much like a theatrical production in that sense. So it's you, the deck that you put together, or PowerPoint slide that you put together, and you're on stage and you're talking about your setup. Now, the core difference between the two is with the webinar stuff, you can kind of have a script, even though I knew my script by heart, but you can kind of have a script and overall kind of points that you want to make, and you can go with the flow. It's much easier to riff. With a live presentation where you have to make certain points, and some of those points are quite nuanced, financials and this type of thing, I had to use a different methodology. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Memory Palace or Memory Castle. Have you come across that method?
come across that. But...
So it's basically a methodology for learning whatever speech you're making by heart, but without rote learning. So in rote learning, you're kind of memorizing each of the sentences one by one. And if you happen to forget where you are, you're kind of fucked, for the lack of a better word, because then you're like, that's why when people get stuck on stage, it's because they've rote learnt the speech that they're making. With the memory palace, what you're doing, so for example, everyone that's listening, they can imagine their living room. So you're in your mind's eye, you walk into your living room, you've got your couch on the left, you've got a smaller sofa going round, and then you've got some windows, you've got your TV, you've got a few different bits. What you do with the memory palace is you go around your room in your mind, and each segment of your room represents a different part of your speech.
Okay.
So when you're presenting, you're walking through that room.
Okay.
If you lose your way and you get stuck, you just go, I was at the settee, and you remember the bit that you started with.
Right.
So if you get interruptions, if problems happen, if there's a fire alarm that goes off, you literally go back to where you were in that room.
Right.
And you can kind of put everything together.
Yeah.
So it's a really good, the presentation that I had to give was very specific. There were certain things that I had to say, and it was 10 minutes long.
Right.
So speaking for 10 minutes to a live audience without any prompts, without any script in your hand, without any notes of anything, and you're kind of, getting everyone G'd up, you're telling jokes. I in my presentations always kind of have an element of comedy. I kind of take the approach of you can either be amazing or you can be funny. And the best combination is to be the two together. So if you've got an amazing tool that you've created, be amazing. If your stuff, like I provide financial news, that's boring, right? So to make it interesting, I throw the odd joke in there, and it kind of keeps the audience engaged. Like a lot of people thought that my presentation was the best of the day.
Right.
Of the people that we had that day.
Well, let's talk about that.
Sure.
And putting in jokes, and you're talking about a very serious topic. You're talking about people spending their money on maybe it's a currency pair, it could be certain stock.
Yeah.
And then you add in these jokes, and
well, the jokes were for the investors.
Yeah, give us an example where you've done the speech, a joke that's really changed the atmosphere.
The atmosphere. Oh my God, this was in Israel.
Okay.
So you can imagine for the audience, I'm a Muslim guy.
Yeah.
And I went to Israel, and it's probably if you look at it from the outset, it seems like it might be a hostile environment for me. It was great. I had a really good time. I met some amazing people.
He was not stuck at the border. He was not taken into a cage.
I was not. I was
poked
fine.
with a prod. Like,
everything was great. I had a good time.
Go back.
But one of the jokes that kind of came up in my experience there, my company is called Financial Juice.
Yeah.
Pretty much a large proportion of the people that I met, whenever I said, hey, my company is called Financial Juice, they thought it was called Financial Jews. And it kind of became like this hilarious joke that even with the border guards, I told them this joke, so we're kind of joking around and stuff like that. So it's something that came up, all the time. It probably won't sound funny without the context, but the joke was, I'm introducing my company and saying 84% of Israelis think the name of my company is Financial Jews. And it just, if you're Jewish, it just brought the house down. And everyone lost their minds, but it warmed everyone up to me as a personality.
Yeah.
Because I think you buy from people, and essentially they liked me, and because of that, it led to further conversations.
Yeah.
Everyone likes someone that can make them laugh.
Yeah, because I presume if you were to just go in there and straight away just go in with your key facts and figures without giving the audience warmth.
It'd be a snooze fest. Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think with public speaking as a whole, you have to be open about yourself and who you are and show your personality. And you yourself from knowing you for quite a long time now, for over a year, or nearly a year, that you've got this personality that people are drawn to because you've got a certain way of delivering things and you say certain
I call people
things.
special flowers.
Yeah, special flowers. This is the thing. You need to open up yourself to the audience and make that initial connection.
Yeah.
It's cliche, but everyone says it. Have an icebreaker.
Yep.
And without an icebreaker, you're just going to have an audience that's frozen in time, just looking at an Asian guy standing on stage, just blurting out certain things. It may make sense to them, but are they really engaged? So that's another thing. Talk to me about an experience where you have not been able to engage with an audience and it's a really tough crowd.
I mean,
even if it's just
I
one
can
person.
give you a perfect example of this. So, as well as the textile stuff, I also run a finance event.
Yeah.
And the event takes place in Orlando, and we have one in London.
Yes.
For some reason, this is a very difficult audience to engage. Like, I've managed to kind of, over the time that I've done it, everyone's got to know me now, so they know what to expect, and we have a good time. But initially, it was like, it's a really difficult, and there were some really funny guys going up on stage talking to this audience, and for some reason, that you couldn't get anything from them. They were very withdrawn.
Right.
And there were a few hypotheses running around, like the room was too big, so everyone was too far spread out.
Right.
And that had an impact, but so then we kind of put everyone together, but still it wasn't quite edgy. And I opened up with, hey guys, my name's Aamar. I'm here as part of the Islamification of the US. We're starting with this fintech summit, and we're going to go to the White House. And it was kind of, whenever I'd pitch that joke at home or with friends, they all thought it was quite funny, right? And it's the delivery as well. It was delivered quite well.
Yeah.
But it just kind of went down, it just went really flat. And then, like, my follow-up was, oh, well, that was my big opener. And everyone laughed at that. And that so it's kind of the joke fell flat. And, I always try and prepare my jokes beforehand. And it was just a difficult audience. Yeah. And with a difficult audience, you just have to keep moving forward.
Right.
You can't just stop.
Okay.
And I kept moving forward. I just made another joke off the cuff, a couple more times, and that warmed them up, and I kept moving things forward. But it was really awkward. You could hear a pin drop when that joke landed.
Right.
And it could just be a context of, America's, especially the audience that I had, there were a lot of people were from the South. There's a lot of Fox News watching that takes place in the States, and Fox News is quite biased.
Yeah.
So maybe they took it personally. I don't know, but I thought it was funny.
Well, I guess in that way, you said the joke, and then you said that was your big opener. It's like, well, okay, it doesn't really mean anything.
It's why the joke didn't work, because with other audiences, that joke has gone down really, really well.
Yeah.
Even other American audiences.
Yeah.
But I guess the big takeaway is to know your audience. And I made the mistake of assuming that this would work.
Right.
Because it worked in Israel. I made those kind of jokes all the time.
Yeah.
And they always brought the house down. But for some reason, it didn't work there.
But this is the thing, you can't have the same approach to every audience.
Exactly.
Because if you do that, you're going to be stale. Nobody's really going to want to listen to you. And the way that you did that is you're being honest about your approach at the beginning. So you change that around.
Yeah.
How easy do you find it? Well, let's say you're halfway through a speech and you realize the audience isn't really catching on. How easy is it to adapt to the audience?
So I haven't done that many speeches.
Okay.
I've done a lot of emceeing. I've done the few bits that I have done. I mean, with the webinar stuff, it follows a regular format, and if I lose my way, I have the script next.
Right.
So that's totally fine. A few occasions where I have been speaking live and I've lost my way, I always try and make sure I prepare beforehand. Preparation is the key, but if I lose my way, I then go to the audience.
Okay.
So my default is talk to the audience, because then you know that people are engaged, and you kind of have a back and forth, and that leads to other ideas, and you kind of speak on the spot.
Okay.
So that's kind of generally been my approach when especially with this finance event.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is, most of the audience know me, so I have kind of in-jokes with almost everyone. Like, we have our own little private jokes. So they'll shout stuff out to me, and I'll kind of have to make a quick back to them and stuff like that. So there's always that back and forth taking place.
Right.
It's about, if you lose your way, a good thing in my view is to use the audience to find a different path.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then let's say if whoever's listening to this, they may be doing a presentation to 2 or 3 people, maybe that one person.
Yeah.
And that person knows the ins and outs of, let's say it's a financial product, whatever it is, and they pause on the spot, and they're not able to think of a question or figure out a way. How this is really pinpointing it here, but how would you get over that?
So the question is, why is that happening? Why is that happening? And it comes back to preparation. If you're having a meeting with someone and you're presenting a product or this type of thing, if you're not prepared, you will get stuck, right? You can get through it and riff it and this type of of thing.
Yeah.
But to avoid scenarios like that, you've got to have prior preparation.
Yeah.
More than anything. And if you are prepared, if you've done everything you could do and you've lost your way for a second, have a break. That's the only thing you can do. To fight. Well, in my experience anyway, the only thing you can do is just pause for a moment and gather your thoughts, review your notes. Go back to your memory palace, whatever it is, and start all over again.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not at the very beginning where you say, "Sorry guys, I need a break." And then a minute later, I need another break. You're just drinking water, and then you realise you've got to go to the loo because you drink too much water at the beginning. So there's no one on stage, and it's I think it's key, like you said, preparation as always, to always know what you're talking about, because without that you're going to screw yourself over.
Absolutely.
So the final sort of thing is, you've talked about how you've overcome those short bumps, but I want to hear a situation where you've completely lost control, and you've not been able to come back from that. Because with everyone, and I know for myself that I've had moments where I've not been able to come back at all, and I've just been stuck there with nothing to back me up. Right. So talk to me about an experience like that.
I don't think I've had an experience that extreme.
Okay.
Whenever something has gone wrong, I have always been able to riff it and go with it. I'm generally quite calm, I don't get stressed, and most people, when they panic, the panic is what stops them from acting and taking action. And I don't have that problem as much. I even if I forget my lines or whatever, or lose my train of thought, or someone interrupts to heckle or whatever in terms of the financy stuff, because I'm quite friendly with people, I adapt by being able to think of something else to go with, and something else can be pulled out the bag of tricks. So I've not really had that kind of an issue personally, and I think some of that is due to being prepared. So I know what the hell I'm talking about before I'm doing it, especially when it comes to the webinars. I know that stuff backwards. It's something I've got a lot of experience in. I've practiced my webinar event. I've gone through the formula. I've tested different elements of it. I know it really, really well. When I do a live pitch to investors and this type of thing for financial juice, I knew that thing inside out. I mean, I spent 2 weeks developing the script for it. So I knew inside out. The preparation is the key. As long as you're prepared, even when things fall apart, you will have that knowledge base to be able to adapt.
I think that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to say, if you don't have an experience of really having those sort of failures, then fine, because this is your way of approaching.
If you're a nervous speaker, in my view, speaking isn't something you're born with. It's not a skill. It's not something that's innate. I think it's a skill set that's developed. And anyone, and literally anyone, I saw it in Techstars, there were people that were terrible, really, 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 really bad. Over the course of 2 weeks, they became amazing. And it was purely through preparation. If you're a nervous speaker, if you feel like you're not good at this, if you can't project yourself well, it's just practice. It's just preparation. Probably 95% of that iceberg is just preparation. And then, you'll be prepared. You'll be prepared for whatever comes.
And then linking back to Co-Tribe and how you promote that as well, because there's a big part of that as well is also to maybe present a speech to people and really gauge our audience, other than marketing and online stuff. So talk to me about the experience of using public speaking for the setup of Co-Tribe and just really getting it out.
So this is going to sound a little bit weird, but I'm going to try and describe it as best I can. I try to create avatars in my life in terms of who I want to be. So for achievement, the Aamar that achieves, what does he do? He gets up really early in the morning. He eats really well. Does all these things. So there's these things that I would do, right? If I could create my perfect world. So whenever I do anything, I try, and it's probably got to the point where it's subconscious now. I ask myself, would the perfect Aamar do this, right? Before I do anything, I do the same with my parenting stuff. Not that I'm a great parent or anything, but
kids out.
If I was a good parent, would I do this? And it's those little choices that you make. And it's the same thing with public speaking and the Co-Tribe stuff is, would a good entrepreneur do this? What choices would I make? How would I present myself? You create this avatar of what you think perfection is, and no one is perfect, but you create an avatar of what perfection is, and you try and aspire towards that avatar. And I've done the same with this Co-Tribe stuff. So if I was a great speaker, what would I do? And I'd take that approach. So I'm engaging. I look people in in the eye. I use lots of hand gestures.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff, believe it or not, I'm naturally an introvert. I don't for a long period.
I wouldn't believe that.
No, that's the thing. It's kind of it's a battle that I fight. Like
Right.
I don't massively enjoy being around people that I'm unfamiliar with.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
However, I've done certain things along the way in my career that have kind of put me in those situations and overall become more confident.
Yeah.
So you make a choice of the avatar of who you want to be, and would this version of you make this choice? Would this version of you do whatever it is that you want to do? Now going back to Co-Tribe, it's the same thing. I think to some degree people look to me for like guidance, they look to me for help, they look to me for like to bring them up when they're having a down day.
Yeah.
And I have to, choose from my avatars of who I want to be, what's right for them at that moment in time. So I think the best thing that anyone could do is kind of define perfection for themselves and then have that mental kind of back and forth with yourself. Like if I was, a great speaker, would I do this? If I was a great parent, would I do this? Those kinds of choices. It kind of is self-checking, self-regulating.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? I know it sounds a bit out there.
No, I think it does. And look, there are various ways to approach public speaking.
Yeah.
If it's creating that personality or picking those different avatars that you would use, then fine.
Yeah.
To deal with the situation, with a face-to-face, over the phone, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And just a final question then, linking to that. Will those avatars span out from your personality? I would say. Okay.
Yeah. They are you, but an exaggeration of you. Like, there is not one single person that is the same way with every single person that they meet.
Yeah.
We all have like different traits to our personalities, and different people bring those out. It's the same with speaking scenarios. So with the guys, when I speak at fintech events, I speak to them in a certain way. I have an overall style that's me, but there is a certain methodology that's employed, a certain way of speaking. If I'm like, one of my goals is to kind of do a comedy set at some point, right? It's something I really want to do.
I'd love to see that.
It'll be terrible.
No, it won't be.
It's something I really want to do. But obviously that approach will be completely different. And the approach with Co-Tribe is completely different. But it all finds its root in your personality. And then you kind of have the avatar that stems from, one, your personality, and two, what the task requires.
Right.
The avatar meets the two in the middle. So it's your personality, what the task requires, and in the middle is the avatar.
Right.
Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
For everyone that's listening, I'm kind of trying to juxtapose between 2 points.
At the moment, he's taking his heart out from his chest and then putting it in front of me. If you've seen Indiana Jones, where he goes off to India, you know the bit where there's a bit where the ritual guy goes Kalima and takes out the heart from the guy, while the guy's on the wooden thing going,
Shakti there.
Exactly. That is Aamar at the moment. He's got a little red dot, black clothing, and he's just going Kalima at the same time. Final thought. He's not.
We've got off the track.
Podcast, people, podcast. This is professional. It's the first one, but hey. But what I want to get is just as your final thoughts.
Sure.
For the people that are listening, and maybe it might be my gran, it could be my pet dog. I actually don't have a pet dog, or whatever. It's a fishing about.
All of the one person listening.
Just me and me. Amar's not even going to listen to this afterwards. He's like, yeah, I'm done. He's got to go, and that's it. He's going to call it quits. Yeah. But final thoughts. Your views on public speaking.
Right.
How would you define it in your way?
I think it's what I described earlier: be amazing or be funny.
Okay.
So one, be amazing or be funny, or a combination of the two. That's perfect. The other thing that I would say is be prepared, and stuff like Memory Palace or Memory Castle, whatever you want to describe it as, that will help you to prepare, and you will be so confident. It's because you know your stuff. You've got the lines and everything you want to say down. It'll become fun, and you'll engage with the audience. And engaging with the audience is a really big part of what I do. Like, I really like that. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to TSP, and there will be plenty more. That was my promotion. I had to pay him like 10 quid for that. So
get some TSP, fool.
And that was the deposit, and that was another 20 quid gone. So I'm going to use that as much as I can. So my guest, Aamar Hussain, who's the owner of Co-Tribe, has done a ton ton of stuff. Crazy guy, but also very interesting. Apparently he's an introvert, but he's not really. And I think that's just in his head.
That's true.
But, well, he said himself. Thank you for coming on to the podcast and sharing your experiences and your knowledge and giving those away. They're for free, unless I put this on for like £100. Maybe not yet. Maybe.